What is an electromagnetic pulse weapon? Actually, you can think of it probably too simply, but not terribly inaccurately, as a lightning bolt on steroids. Right now, an electromagnetic pulse from a lightning bolt is a pretty crude club. The wavelength is way too long. So ideally, what you would like to do is shift the energy of the electromagnetic pulse from the long wavelength of a lightning bolt down into a microwave. Now, what is a microwave? Microwaves are all the waves between a meter and a millimeter. Now think of how well that couples with everything in our society, because almost everything we use electronically fits between a meter and a millimeter. If you look at a standard electromagnetic device that's made to read electromagnetic pulses like your cell phone, there's an antenna. It's actually made to absorb electromagnetic radiation. It's just not designed to take the power of the pulse of an electromagnetic weapon.
As the 21st century unfolds, the same technology that gave us the benefit of cell phones, microwaves, and remote control is now being applied to a completely new array of powerful weapons. The development veiled in secrecy current in a lightning bolt. One can blast enemy missiles out of the sky. Another can be used to blind soldiers on a battlefield. Still another to control an unruly crowd by burning the surface of their skin. If detonated over a large city, an electromagnetic weapon could destroy all electronics in seconds. Though their effects may be different, they have one remarkable feature in common. They all use directed energy to create a powerful electromagnetic pulse.
The point is, when you start looking at affecting human beings, I think we need to be involved in that discussion. Human beings need to be having that debate. If we're going to develop new weapon systems that potentially are going to change the shape of war within the democracies, particularly those that are strong and controlling the military forces of the planet right now, we ought to have those discussions, and they're not taking place.
We have been testing what I'm going to call microwave weapons for crowd control. What they do is, again, instead of using a single pulse, these are continuously directed energy weapons that heat the skin very rapidly, much like your microwave oven. In fact, almost exactly like your microwave oven, but they're controlled broadcast microwave pulses. And obviously, you can derail a opposing force very quickly if all the soldiers begin to feel a burning sensation on their skin. That's truly a burning sensation. Now, the nice thing about, from the offensive point of view of a microwave weapon, is you don't really have to critically injure people with a microwave.
If we were looking at what an electromagnetic pulse might look like, if you could see it, it would be sort of like when you see in the cartoons when there's a pulsating cone of energy that comes out of something, that comes down from the line of sight. That would kind of be like what an electromagnetic pulse would visualize, like if you could visualize it.
The government may know more than the rest of us about the potential health effects of these sorts of systems. We do know that the Air Force has a human systems laboratory where they have been researching what these devices could potentially do to humans. That research has not yet been made public.
These weapons work with directed energy, much like harnessing the power of an overcharged lightning bolt. When the blast occurred at the Beckford home, it was difficult to assess if the mysterious phenomenon had human consequences. Neighbors said Susie Beckford was never the same again. It may be a coincidence, but 4 months after the event, she died. Her death certificate cited heart failure as the cause of death.
Testing what I'm going to call microwave weapons for crowd control. You can affect a large area by sweeping the beam and making sure that people are in the beam long enough to get a very nasty sensation of being cooked, which, to a very fine depth, they are.
If you haven't heard about these weapons, it's no surprise. Their development has been secretive, and they sound more like science fiction than reality.
The New York Times wanted to do a story on the new frontiers of military technology, And we've done a lot of work previously on what have been called smart bombs and satellite-guided munitions. We really wanted to find really what the next frontier was. And I did some reporting, talking to some military analysts that I know, and also some people actually in the investment community who follow companies that make their money off government contracts. And they mentioned to me this whole new category of weapons known as directed energy or electromagnetic weapons. And that's really how we found out about it. And then we started doing some reporting, and one of the hard things about it was that the government really didn't want to come forward with a lot of information. Most of these programs still remain secret or classified.
I became interested in the Space Preservation Act and in developing the Space Preservation Act when I learned that our administration in Washington was looking at a program called Vision 2020. And Vision 2020 actually is a program for the United States to dominate the world from outer space. Now, I love America, and I'd like to say that we're number one. But let me tell you something. We don't need to be number one in weapons in space. The Department of Defense has been working at a facility in Alaska, which is doing research into effects of electromagnetic frequencies in the ionosphere. And that facility, which is called HARP, has raised concern among many individuals about how this research would be applied. For example, we know that, according to some of the research, as these energy pulses are directed into the ionosphere, they can have somewhat of an effect.